What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the ending to Spider-Man No Way Home. Kind of discuss it a little bit and ask some questions. And now, maybe asking questions isn't the greatest thing to do, because I do like the ending. I guess I want to say that out loud first. I do really like how they did it, and I'm okay with the idea of everybody forgetting Peter Parker and, you know, what he did with MJ and all that stuff. I think actually the MJ stuff at the end was phenomenal. It was really well done. It was one of the better parts of the movie. I just want to ask some questions of how the forgetting thing actually works, how the villains go back and what happens there. Same thing with the other Spider-Man, Tobey and Andrew. So I'm really honestly just going to be asking questions and kind of giving my own thoughts. Definitely want to hear from you guys in the comments. Now, I've seen there's like Reddit theories and there's other people like speculating as to what it could be, and I assume we'll get some answers from them, like the writers or even the director for No Way Home, in the next like week or two. Once like it's okay to spoil things, I think they'll talk about what they envision the ending is supposed to be like. But until then, we're kind of left to guess. And also, just to say, like, yes, I know, like, I'm questioning the, you know, like the mental gymnastics of a movie like this. You know, sue me, leave the dislike, whatever. It's all in good fun. Okay, it's the same thing as doing this for any other movie or franchise. But no, I do have some questions. So everybody forgets, okay? I guess the idea is maybe we have to kind of put together what exactly they were doing, right? So Doctor Strange, the multiverse is coming in, and it's because all of these people from anything, right? Anybody who knows who Peter Parker is, from any like branch off, you know, they are all coming, okay? And the only way to stop that is to do the spell where everybody forgets Peter Parker. Now, I would assume that would include, in fact, it has to, right, the other two Spider-Men. Because the reason why the villains came through in the first place is because they knew who Peter Parker was in their own, you know, universe. So because they knew the other ones, the Andrew and Tobey ones, they were then brought to this one, the Marvel one. It doesn't really have anything to do, I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It doesn't have anything to do with, like, Tom Holland's Peter Parker. It's the idea of Peter Parker in general. So if that's how they got there, the villains in the first place, then it must be the reverse of it in order to put all of them back. Not just, I guess, them, but also any of the ones coming in, right, at the end, is everybody needs to forget in every universe that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Okay, now, on the surface level, again, like the emotional weight of that and having like MJ and Ned forget who he is and happy and all that stuff, I thought excellently done, perfect, beautiful, like teary-eyed, all that stuff, right? But I also don't exactly know how it works, because it's like, well, how do they forget? So they know who Spider-Man is, and they have all of their memories of when Spider-Man was around. So like in the Washington Monument, they all know he did that, and I guess Peter doesn't exist, and maybe that's an easier way of making it all work, right? Because if Peter doesn't exist whatsoever and they only know who Spider-Man is, then I guess it solves some of the problems. But then like even like Vulture, right? So Vulture knew Peter was Spider-Man, and he saw Peter and he saw Spider-Man. I guess my thing is, it's really like in the gray areas where I'm kind of like concerned of like how exactly it goes. Like Peter shows up to fight Vulture, and multiple times Vulture tells him like Peter while he's fighting Spider-Man. So what distinguishing line do we draw where they can't, you know what I mean? Even like with MJ, like she knew some of the time in the movies when she did actually know, like all of these movies, when he's swinging around as Spider-Man, she only knows it as Spider-Man. She doesn't know at all that it's Peter, even though she was calling him Peter in those moments. So I guess the thing I'm trying to say is, it's the moments when the people know who he is, but he is Spider-Man at that time. That's where it gets very confusing to me of how you handpick and select those moments. It's also hard because we don't have context for what they do know. We kind of do, like J. Jonah Jameson, that was the whole point of him, right? Is that, you know, they know Spider-Man's real, they know he exists, but they don't, you know, he says like, take off the mask, like show the world who you are. So they don't know who's underneath the mask. So we do know that they know that, but I would also like to know a little bit more about what they know. What do they know about Spider-Man? Have they ever thought of like who it could be? I guess, again, because Peter Parker basically at this point doesn't exist anymore, there's no way of them to they can't say like, oh, your voice kind of sounds like, and I guess also like if you were to take off the mask, right, they'd say like, oh, I don't even know, like your name doesn't exist, you as an individual don't exist. I guess that is a solid enough way of hiding it, or I guess of getting through like that mental barrier, for me and for the audience, because you don't even have that option for these characters. It really makes it, and what I think they'll do for 4, right, is like you're gonna have to build the Peter to blank relationship again. Like Peter to MJ, they will need to establish a relationship, you know what I mean? And then him and Ned will have to establish a relationship. You can't do it any other way. You can't do it by just being Spider-Man. You have to do it as being Peter Parker, because you literally get a clean slate. So I'm just kind of confused on the gray area there. Also, I think what really starts to get messy is like the villains going back and the Peters going back, because now the villains don't know who they are either, and they fixed them, quote unquote, right? They like healed them, they cured them. And so when they go back, the whole idea, right, is that he didn't want to send them back, because if you send them back as the villains they are now, most, not even, all of them, because, Sandman, Lizard, like they don't die, but some of them are going to die because of who they are. So like, let's cure, but then like you're putting them back in the same universe. So like, are you expecting that they, like, when are you putting them back, right? Because Doc Ock, you took him, he said it, you took Doc Ock when he was choking Peter Parker. So that's right before the speech that told him, about, really that just used his own words against him, and he calmed down and he got control of the tentacles, and then he destroyed his machine. So that's where they picked him off. They have to put him back there, but then like, but he's good now. It's not actually going to change anything in that situation. Like, he's gonna die, I would assume, no matter what, unless you put him in before it, which is kind of confusing. Also, then you're taking these characters from different movies, like a Green Goblin thing. Like, you're gonna put Green Goblin back in 1, but then doesn't that have any impact? Because then he has nothing to do with like Harry kind of going down that path. So then like, does 2 and 3 happen? And like, does Harry become what he becomes in 3? Does he die? It creates some questions of like, do any of those movies actually now even happen? And especially because like they don't know, because like Green Goblin, he wouldn't know who Peter Parker is, so he couldn't terrorize Aunt May, he couldn't capture MJ, he wouldn't die again, so then he would have no impact on Harry doing it. Harry wouldn't know. So it's like I don't exactly know how all of that stuff plays out. It's definitely a little messy, and I don't think you're supposed to think about it too hard, because to give them credit, really in a way they completely wrapped up Toby, if he even needed to be wrapped up. Andrew, they kind of really gave like fresh life to him, or if they wanted to do more, I think they definitely could do more with him. And then with Tom, obviously this is establishing the next kind of arc in his life. So if you look at it just like that, it's like, okay, well then it doesn't really matter what happens in the other universes with those two Spider-Men. Like, let's just, those movies happen, you love them or you hate them, and then this happened, and then it kind of concludes it all, and that's it. And then the Tom stuff is the most important, which again I think is the least confusing and makes the most sense of all of that group. Again, to me, I don't know if I can really get completely over the idea of like they just completely forget Peter, but then like when he is Peter as Spider-Man, they're calling him that and all that stuff. Like they're just gonna, that you lose only like certain memories in your memory bank off of that. It really is like a Dumbledore, like when he takes the thoughts out of his head. It's really like that, very, very specifically, kind of like a science experiment or like a surgery on their brain. So let me know. Maybe I made it more confusing than it needs to be, but because when you think about it just in a flat scape, it makes sense, I guess. Like it's fine what they did. Again, I'm not upset at all about what happened. It's cool. It's a cool arc that started at the beginning of the movie, ended at the end. So I'm definitely cool with the idea. Very depressing, very dark, and I actually really like that. But let me know. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you guys know when all of these videos go up. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope to see you all on the next video.